Would you please be line right now and open the video?
Okay.
Okay, got it. Nicholas, are you here? Are you there? Scott?
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. Yeah, okay, good. Scott, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for your culture. And Eric.
Ahoy, hoy, I am here.
Okay, thank you.
Frank.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, got it. Danny, wait.
Danny and I will go halfway.
Danny 没进去。
太好玩了。
Danny.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, so time is almost 8 o'clock. So what's wrong?
No.
So excited, right?
Hey,
Okay.
anybody who needs to go to the washroom, go quickly.
I think we missed that boat.
Danny sitting there, he's playing mahjong.
No, it's okay. I actually got my diapers on, so no worries, guys.
Hi, Kelly.
Okay.
If everyone is ready to start, you can start at any time, okay?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And now, okay. Sejun? Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, you can get started, please.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning or good evening. Welcome to the fourth Dewey Global Dialogue hosted by Culture Center of China International Publishing Group, Dewey Center and Ban Ki-moon Center. The topic of this dialogue is Esports, a new worldwide language for social networking. Please let me introduce myself. I'm Kelly Zhao from Beijing Zhongguancun Esports Association as a senior researcher. It's my great pleasure to be moderator of session today. And I also have the honor and pleasure to extend our cordial welcome to all the executives and experts in the esports industry speaking in today's dialogue. Actually, over the years, esports have grew by leaps and bounds. And with the involvement and engagement with youth and global fans, esports have become a new platform for global cultural communications. Music, videos, content creation, and now esports have a new way to express the spirit of youth. Katowice city in Poland is now known as the center of esports in the West. And right now we can see that the rise to esports cities in China, such as Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou. The esports being featured in as a highlight activity in Olympics signifies that the esports has a worldwide influence and a kind of part of key component of global cultures and sports. Meanwhile, lots of organizations in the esports industry are making the significant contributions to it. So please let me introduce the speakers from the leading organizations. Mr. Nicholas Ho, advisor to the board, Global Esports Federation, and co-founder of Singapore's Cyber Sports and Online Gaming Association. Welcome.
Thank you. Nice to meet everyone. Thank you.
Mr. Scott Valencia, CEO of Cyber Athletes, Professional League from USA. Welcome to join us. Hello.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Eric Zhou, Business Director of ESL Gaming. Welcome.
Hi, 大家好.
Hello. 你好. Mr. Frank Young, Manager Director of Asia Digital Entertainment Group, Limited from Singapore. Welcome to Dewey Global Dialogue. Hello.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Mr. Danny Lee, CEO of Beijing Joint Network Technology Company, Limited from Beijing, China. Welcome to the dialogue. Danny.
Thank
Hello.
you. Hi, this is Danny from Beijing.
Welcome. Mrs. Wan Kan, representative or host from Culture Center for International Communication. Welcome. Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Okay. Before the dialogue begins, let's welcome Wan Kan, representative of the host organizations, to kick off today's dialogue and address the audience. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Kelly. And dear colleagues from the esports community, dear my friends, dear good evening. I'm Wang Kan from CIPG. On behalf of the organizers, I would like to welcome everyone to attend today's online meeting. And thank you, Beijing Zuoyue, for this big support to this event. And you can see the theme of our event is Esports, a new worldwide language for social networking. Yes, since 21st century, esports has risen rapidly with its unique social style and cultural charm. With these characteristics of diversity, strong interaction, and emphasis on experience, it has attracted countless people, especially Generation Z, those becoming a unique new social language. It is not difficult to find that the popularity of esports is increasing. Year by year, by 2020, it had secured 2 billion users worldwide. Our countries contributed the most of this figure, according for 530 million. With such a huge audience, the esports industry, in addition to its operational entertainment attributes, has began to take on the role of intercultural communication and value shaping, which is why we invite everyone here today. We hope that in today's dialogue, we can discuss the new perspectives for the development of esports in context of globalization from 3 perspectives, namely the reshaping of youth value, the implementation of urban culture, and the international cultural exchanges. Let's rectify the name of esports together. Last but not least, I would like to share with you about our high and top quality platform, Dewey Global Dialogue. DGD is an online and offline international platform jointly sponsored by CIPG, Dewey Center, and the Ban Ki-moon Center, aiming at promoting the exchange among culture between the East and the West, and the interaction among international Generation Z. We organize monthly dialogues. In past 3 months, former U.S. Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, President of CIPG, Du Zanyuan, former UNESCO Director General Bokova, former Austrian President Fischel, and President of International Dance Council at UNESCO Lefties participated in our dialogues. In addition, the dialogues also attracted a group of youth leaders from Europe, America, and Asia with different schemes, colors, race, and backgrounds. They extensively exchanged the opinions and experience, shared what they learned. Therefore, realized the integration and information dissemination of diversified culture. Dear guests and young friends, thank you again for your support. Now I would like to give the floor to the esports masters. Look forward to your wonderful views and sharing. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wang. Thanks for your support. It is a really meaningful international dialogue, which would be a start of global cultural communications with esports. I believe that. And right now, welcome the speakers, open up the keynote remark and a small reminder to all the speakers to contain your speech to 8 or 10 minutes. Thanks. Okay, so now, Mr. Nicholas Ho, the board advisor of GEF and co-founder of SCOGA, we would like you to start us off by discussing what we see as a connection between the esports and the global culture, and how the esports is becoming a mainstream cultural lifestyle. Thank you.
Thank you. It's good to meet everyone, and thank you for having me here. As a quick intro for myself, I've been in esports for more than 15 years. I started as a competitive Dota player. At the time, it was not even Dota 2, it was Dota 1. Right? And together with my fellow professional gamers or semi-professional gamers at the time, we co-founded SCOGA, which is the Singapore Cyber Sports and Online Gaming Association. Right? In the past 14 years, some of the highlights we have, we've reached out to almost 2 million gamers who turn out for our events in person, right, including hosting of 3 World Championships for Vainglory, Mobile Legends, and Free Fire. These events have reached more than 300 million young viewers. We've flown hundreds of gamers overseas to represent Singapore in various international and regional tournaments. And we've also worked with actually almost every tertiary public institution in Singapore, right, including recently to launch a formal esports diploma programs with the certified by Singapore's Ministry of Education, right? We've seen more than 1,000 gamers attend some of these esports academy development classes, and we also helped in the team preparation and training for our Singapore national team for the Asian Games as well as the SEA Games. Both are officially sanctioned under the Olympic Council of Asia. So I think with this background, it's been a huge honor for me to join the Global Esports Federation, GEF for short, and to extend that work to outside of Singapore, right? And I think for GEF, a very quick intro, right? Our vision is to have a safe, inclusive, and healthy esports ecosystem that celebrates and inspires youth. Right. Personally, I'm serving not just as an advisor to the board, but in various commissions around education, culture, youth, technical standards, and a few others. Right. GEF is very new. It started in December 2019. However, we've made some significant progress. I'll just highlight a few if you've and I think that would kind of like also draw some reference to, I think, to the topic for today around culture and lifestyle. So first of all, our CEO, Paul Foster, was appointed, and he was the head of protocol at the International Olympic Committee, IOC, right? And he brings a lot of that experience around engaging between sports and culture, right? And more than 80 countries have signed up as members with strategic partnerships with partners like the Commonwealth Games Federation, the Olympic Council of Asia, the Olympic Committees of South America, ODESOR, as well as the Invictus Games Foundation, right? It's founded by the Duke of Essex. We're also part of the Esports Liaison Group, myself personally, which is hosted by the IOC, International Olympic Committee. I think on some aspects like wellness, for example, we had many of you will be familiar with global sporting legend Cristiano Ronaldo, right? He lent his voice to the GEF, right, to talk about performance and wellness, right, and to encourage responsible esports and promoting optimized performance, wellness, and balanced lifestyle, right? I think we see esports as becoming more and more important in the conversation, in the global conversation, and GEF also joined the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, Sports for Climate Action Initiative as signatory to this Sports for Climate Action framework. And GEF and UNESCO have also formalized intention to work together. And GEF is committed to contribute towards the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals called the SDG, right? Each organization will bring specific expertise and a focus to facilitate the progress of the 4 SDGs aimed at empowering youths all over the world. In particular, let me call them out: SDG 3, which is on good health and well-being; SDG 4, which is on quality education; SDG 5, which is on gender equality; and finally, SDG 17, which is partnerships for the goals, right? So I would like to just maybe take time to share. There are many things to share, but I think in the limitation of time, I'll just share 3 learnings I had in this, or 3 key learnings, right, in this journey that I've had. First of all, there are many challenges in esports, right? People talk about things like addiction, impact to health, influence of gambling, drugs, etc. There are many challenges, right? However, I think esports is as a growing sector and segment cannot be ignored, and there are huge opportunities as well, right? Besides the millions of participants, right? Especially young participants, billions of dollars. Like these youths are also not found right in other platforms like TV and all that. And from esports, that we found that there's a big connection to culture, right? More and more you see like musicians, celebrities, youth crossing over to esports to reach a new audience, and you see from esports as a jumping off point also to very important topics like what I just mentioned about climate change, STEM, right? Science, technology, engineering, and math. And I myself remember I was hosting this cultural exchange between Singapore and China called, we hosted this thing called the China-Singapore Friendship Tournament, right? And it was 2 years back. And in the past, right, I would say that before esports, right, some of these cultural exchanges may have been on other topics or even other kind of sports, right? But esports has that potential. So that's the first thing, right? I think the second learning was that after so many years, I feel that even after 15 years, 16 years, that I feel that I'm just getting started, right? Learning about the space, right? And that I think this is a space that is very dynamic, it's very fast changing, and you'll find that you will always be learning. And I think it's important to always be listening and learning from everyone. And I really look forward to today's conversation to learn from everyone, whether you've been in esports for a long time or even those of you who just been to esports. And I'll end off perhaps with the last point and a little anecdote, right? It's I'll say it takes a village. You know, there's this saying that says it takes a village to raise a child, right? And I remember one day I got a call, right? It was from a school, and apparently in the school there was this 13-year-old boy. He quit school supposedly to play games, but as I engaged and I found out that actually it wasn't necessarily quite the case. But I think he had serious issues at school and serious issues at home, right? Family issues, right? So I basically challenged some pro gamers in the game that he played, which is at the time I think remember was Rainbow Six, right? And they worked with him to encourage him. And I think what surprised me was they were really committed, right? They spent almost a year with him. At some point, they walked him to school every day, right, at 6:30 a.m. in the morning, right? So they take a bus to his place and walk him to school at 6:30 in the morning, right? And he eventually got back to school a few months later, and he actually passed his exams and did well. I just received an update. He was 13 years old at the time. Today he's almost 20 years old and is doing very well. Apparently he's like really fit. He's a gym instructor, very full of vigor and energy for life, right? And I think that is I raised that example because I think today we are halfway around the world, right? I'm in Singapore. We have a lot of friends in China. We have a Scott in the US, and I think it's like we are connected as a global village, right? We are a world connected, and I look forward to sharing and to learning from everyone. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Nicholas. Thank you. It is a kind of fast, quick speech, but very insightful. And with activities and objectivities of GEF and SCOGA, I believe most of us can see now how to say sports is a mainstream of culture and connects the global culture, right?
Yes, it's everyone's effort. We're all working together. Maybe some folks like myself, like Scott, maybe even Eric, right? We started this journey a little bit earlier, right? And we are laying the foundation for those after us. But as mentioned, this is a very fast moving, dynamic sector. There are a lot of new things happening all the time, and we are also constantly learning. And I think it's important to learn and grow together.
Yeah, I suppose it is what the sports works for, right?
And yeah, exactly. Esports is the beauty of esports is that we are connected even around the world, right? And through the internet.
Everyone. Yeah, connect everyone in the world. Okay, thank you. Thanks for your speech.
Thank you.
Next, yeah, thank you. So next we will have Mr. Scott Valencia. So would you please share your opinion about how the esports is becoming a brand new social language, especially for the new generation of gamers?
Certainly. So first of all, thank you to everybody for having me here. So my name is Scott Valencia. I'm the CEO of Cyber Athlete Private Limited. We've been around, I've been in the business for a little over 25 years. I think I'm the old guy here. CPL started in 1997. And I've worked with almost everybody here. ESL used to be one of our qualifying leagues, and Craig Levine, their president. Actually, I think I gave him his first sponsorship at CompUSA almost 20 years ago. Danny Lee, we've had great practical experiences with him doing lots of events. Frank Young. Nicholas is a kind of a really old friend and a mentor of mine, even though I'm older than him, because he's been at the forefront of really trying to bring healthy gaming into realization, especially Southeast Asia. When CPL started, our original goal, we were the Cyber Athlete Professional League. We believed and stated that we believed gaming could be a professional sport. After 20 years of practical experience of going through this, we've kind of switched our mantra of how we look at gaming, because we believe that although gaming has become mainstream, we still have a lot of hurdles to overcome to make it a true sport. Primarily for the reason that gaming's constantly evolving. So all other sports at their basis have a foundation. A football is a football, a soccer ball is a soccer ball. And every generation, I can train my daughters how to play the game because it doesn't change. It hasn't changed in 100 years. Technology has changed, so the equipment gets better. But the fundamental of esports is based on technology, which is a paradigm shift. Every year, the equipment gets better, therefore the games get better, therefore the games keep changing. So a game's life cycle is much shorter. And every time a new game comes out, you have to train the market all over again. So it makes communication very, very, very tenuous, in the sense that when these gamers, this youth that we are responsible for, and I think that Danny and a lot of the people share this, is as someone who's been in the business a long time, Nicholas and everything else, we have a responsibility to make sure the youth understands that this is just a segue in life, that they have to realize that their gaming career to becoming a professional gamer and everything else is very, very short, shorter than football, basketball, any other sport. And so it's very important that they realize that, number one, they need to stay in school and continue their education process, because no matter how good they are or anything like that, that if they don't have something to fall back on, at least a baseline education, that they're going to be in a very, very tricky situation once the game marketing dollars stop for a game, or that, or that game is just timed out. And then on top of that, that there are things besides playing the game. If you look at Eric, if you look at Nicholas, most of us started as gamers and then have evolved into business careers. And I think part of our responsibility and the communication is letting them know that they need to be looking at broader things in esports and not just the sport itself. As far as the global communication is concerned, I also think gaming does two things. Number one, while it has allowed people, it has dissolved borders and allowed people to play with people all over the world. What we're finding is there is an escalation of isolation, or these youth find themselves isolated because what they do is they go out there and they practice and they sit and they play the game, and the social skills that they would learn on all types of external sports are not necessarily as developed as someone who, say, plays football, basketball, and everything else. We're seeing it in the streamers, where if you read all the streamer quotes, some of the best streamers are talking about mental health issues, feeling isolated, and everything else. And we, as business owners and organizations, and I applaud a lot of the things that Eric does,
I'm sorry. Maybe something wrong.
Did I drop? Hello?
Hello,
Can you hear
hello.
me? Oh, there I am. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't know how that happened. Where
Okay.
did I don't know where I dropped off, but
yeah. Okay.
but primarily I applaud the ESL and
Hello, sorry, would
Hello?
you please check? Yeah, hello. Yes.
I'm not sure why I keep dropping. Okay.
Maybe something's wrong with the network, and sometimes I can hear you and sometimes I can't.
Yeah, you just muted for a short while, but now you're good again.
Okay. So
Okay, go ahead.
once more time, I keep trying to give ESL a compliment, and that's when I drop out. So maybe that's the thing. So anyway, I applaud ESL and Nicholas and the groups that are out there that are trying to promote the gamers getting out there, working with charities, becoming a voice. It is very important when you're giving the number of dollars and the exposure that we're giving to this youth, that we train them what to do with it. Because I'll tell you, when I was 18, 19, 20 years old, I had no clue how to go out there and present myself and do things. And organizations like SCOGA and ESL and Frank and Danny's groups in China, they're doing an excellent job of making sure that not only are the youth communicating with each other, but they're doing it in a way that is guided, because to give youth money and exposure and a voice without training or without some general direction is a very dangerous thing. So I think that we have to be the gatekeepers and the voice of reason. So our organization is concentrating on collegiate events and adding training and marketing and business guidelines to when they become players, just so they have the ability to function in the real world once their gaming career is over. So again, I applaud this. I applaud the Dewey Center and everybody else for allowing us to have this dialogue. I think it's a very important dialogue, especially coming out of COVID, because there's a lot more exposure. And I definitely applaud my partners here in the esports organizations, because I think the people you brought on here have done a tremendous job of making sure that the gamers are healthy and trained and have someone to talk to if they have anything. So thank you very much for allowing me to be here.
Thank you, Mr. Scott Valencia. Actually, I'm so impressed with your opinion. Actually, every coin has two sides, as you mentioned in the dialogue, and especially for the for the youth, because they need to balance the time between the studying and the gaming. So, would you please, or would you like to introduce something or some situations happened in the USA market? I mean, how does the American youth to balance the gaming time and the studying time?
We're fairly blessed here in the U.S. Esports was adopted fairly early within our market. Within the United States now, our universities, we have a little over 300 universities that are working with like NCAA standards. So the universities themselves actually have sanctioned teams, professors that oversee the teams. They're not allowed to take large amounts of prize money. So in all other sports in the US, when you're a college player, your education is your payment. And so you get scholarships and you participate. Gamers, unfortunately, are still in the mind that they have to get prize money in order to participate. But a lot of the US college leagues have lowered and capped the prize money. And what they're doing is they're getting educational benefits as part of it. And so same thing. We had the same problem with football and basketball in the 70s in the US, where the schools would lose players to the pro teams and they wouldn't have an education. And then we formed laws and rules, the NCAA, that governed all that. And so schools are not, you have to keep a grade point average up and everything else in order to play the teams. The United States government last 2 years ago granted all esports organizations within high school and college STEM money. So now a school who doesn't have a computer center can actually apply for government monies to have a complete computer center built in order to play esports, but they have to hire a teacher to teach computer classes, engineering classes, and coding classes. And so now what's happening is that money is not only being spent on an esports program, but that esports program is benefiting the school and getting them new equipment. And the kids in the clubs must be studying those classes. So I can't just join an esports club if I'm not taking some sort of fundamental class that has something to do with STEM. So we're very blessed to be in that situation where we and Cyber Athlete works with several organizations in the United States in order to support that. We just did an announcement for a $250,000 collegiate event in which, when we give prize money, we have a cap. No team can make more than $10,000, but no player can make more than $10,000. So a team would make 50, but we match it to the school. So if the university's team wins, I give $50,000 to the school to keep their equipment and their program up, and $50,000 to the team. That's how you create a sustainable system. It's not about just grabbing marketing money and promoting and giving lots more and more money to the kids. I mean, what college student needs more than $10,000 in a year, unless they're paying for tuition? But then what we do is we give the equal money to the university, and if they need money for education, the school can give it to them, because the school knows better what the educational process is and how they fund the money out than a gaming organization. So that's kind of what we're doing in the US, but that program we also launched in Southeast Asia, and hopefully we'll be able to launch it in China here in the next couple of years. I think it's very important that the schools know that we support them if they support us, and that we are, again, just gatekeepers. We create a fundamental background, and then we work with the educators to make sure that we're getting to the youth in the best possible way. So.
Okay, thank you. I suppose we got a lot of information from the USA situation in the US market, and I suppose we could learn a lot from the USA market and US, how to say, esports system.
You know something, it's kind of, we're also learning a lot from Southeast Asia and China. You guys have adopted it at such a fast rate that those markets, we're constantly learning from both those markets, because it's like anything in technology. United States was one of the first ones to have, high-speed internet and fiber, but we've been doing it so long, it takes a long time to move up to the next level, because you have to start all over again. In China and Southeast Asia, because you guys are starting from scratch, your technology and some of your gameplay and your adaptability, like the number of people that watch it, is significantly higher than it's in the United States. So where we used to be a market leader, now we're instead of we used to innovate, and now we iterate. You know, we kind of follow the trends that are coming out of China and Southeast Asia, which we're proud to do. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it is very, very helpful to Chinese esports system. Thank you for your wonderful speech. Okay, so next, let's welcome Ms. Eric Zhou. As we know, ESL, being the leader of the esports industry, has created multiple brands of sports events for 20 years, which brings athletes, players, and fans to the biggest stage in many cities around the world. So, Ms. Eric Zhou, would you please share your views how the esports play a part in these cities and promoting the culture to the world? Thank you.
Sure. Thank you for the questions, Kelly, and thank you for everybody for having me and ESL here. I am extremely excited. A quick introduction on myself. My name is Eric Zhou, and I am an American based in Asia. I've been here for the last 10 plus years. Previously, I helped launch Xbox and Xbox games within the Chinese market. And now we're here to bridge ESL's brand of international esports with Asia. And for us specifically, our current focus in Asia shows that we are seeing this market as the final bastion for true globalization of esports, because esports as a whole for so many years has been very fragmented in terms of play, separated from Western play, Eastern play, etc. And on a whole, esports is a global thing. If you look at League of Legends Worlds, Dota TI, all these massive events, Intel Extreme Masters, Katowice, which is my background image, right? These are all international events. You have players from Korea, you have players from China, players from Europe, players from America. They're all coming together to participate in the wonder that is esports. So from that respect, we're here ESL is here to try to make this bridge a lot more smoother, simpler, and better for everybody to participate and get to the global level. We're actively working with local esports organizations. We work with Skoga before. We're trying to work with Skoga and Nick and those guys. We've worked with guys like other organizers like OneUp in Indonesia, TGC, the gaming company in Malaysia, Mineski in the Philippines, VSPN in China. I know some of the VSPN guys pretty well. So a lot of what we're doing is trying to bridge the East and West culture. So to answer your question in terms of how esports culture builds the cities and works with cities, right? We've been at esports for 20 plus years. ESL has been around since 1997. We officially became ESL in the year 2000, and we've been building this on, and we like to say that we built the world's first mega event with ESL Intel Extreme Masters Katowice. And that was 2015, right? And that's one of the largest massive events. I think this current one that you're seeing behind me is 2017, I want to say. But from that perspective, if we look at Katowice as a core example of esports and cities coming together, right? Katowice is a transfer town in the middle of Poland. It's a small population. I think it's less than 100,000, right? It's a very small population, very small town. Very nice. There's one main town square called Mariposa Road with the restaurants, the bars. There's like a downtown area with the shopping centers, the shopping malls. But for the most part, it's a logistics center where trains go through, shipments go through for various different locations across Europe. But every year around February, about 100 to 160,000 plus people descend upon this middle of nowhere town in Poland in the freezing cold. Temperatures are somewhere between 7 degrees Celsius, and it gets colder and it snows and it's freezing. But why are they there? They're there to watch hardcore esports. They're there to watch the best players from around the world, from Korea, from China, from Japan, from Singapore, from America, come and compete. They're here to watch your FaZe Clans fight your Navis, your Cloud9s fight your what's it called? IGs, right? Your Invictus Gamings and those guys just to come together and see how things work out. So esports from that fundamental point is a boon to lots of cities. It's a value add for where cities can create and market themselves to a global and more younger audience, because esports comparatively to a lot of other activities is something that people can see at any time, anywhere over the world, and it's digital first. So comparatively, a lot of the traditional sports are, for lack of a better term, paywall behind traditional media streams. So if you want to watch the NBA, if you want to watch MLB, you're paying for ESPN, you're paying for Disney Plus or whatever additional services that you would need to be able to watch this. But whereas on an esports platform, anybody at any point can turn on YouTube, turn on Bilibili, turn on Huya, Dewey, and they can watch the tournament happen live, and they can be participating in it and get the feel that they're in the city. Because one of the key core elements of being these city events, if you look at not to toot our ESL's own horn, but if you look at ESL 1 Cologne, when you it's called the Cathedral of Counter-Strike for a reason, but all these people come and they look at Cologne and they get to see and they get to witness the culture of the city, as well as experience the love of the esport while they're there. That's the same thing. You can say the same thing with Barclays Center in ESL 1 Brooklyn. You can say that about Intel Extreme Masters in Australia. So as a whole, even if we move away from ESL side, because we're also DreamHack, you look at the DreamHack side, people love DreamHack. They love DreamHack Nordic. They love DreamHack in apologies, my internet connection just told me I was unstable. I guess it's too much gushing about all the various cities. So from a city cultural point, esports is so important to driving more additional or new versions of tourism or new awareness for audiences to various cities across the world. Sure, people will know New York City. They'll know, forget about it. I walk in here, I got a hot dog, that kind of thing, right? They'll know the accent. They'll know all the jokes, all the famous lines. But at the same time, they'll also know it for, oh, there's the New York Knicks. There's the New York Net, the Brooklyn Nets, and then there's ESL 1 is happening there, or whatever major esport event is happening in that location. If we look at Iceland right now, not many people are thinking about Iceland, but you know what's happening in Iceland? League of Legends MSI. That's happening in Reykjavik right now. So these things help promote the cities and their cultures across the world.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your speech. Actually, I know IEM is one of the most well-known, well-known global esports competition brands, and holding IEM in Beijing Haidian, I suppose, would be accelerate the global cultural communications and more understandings of Beijing. So I hope, actually everyone hopes that you could, ESL could hold the more ESL competitions in Beijing, in Shanghai, and in Guangzhou in China, and everyone would join that. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we would love to be more involved in having our physical events in our Masters events in China, right? Intel Extreme Masters Beijing 2019 was a marquee event for us. It was great. We got to work with Frank and the Sedge guys, which was great. They were integral in helping us make IEM a great success. We were the first company or first organization, first tournament to bring Astralis to China. I was able to watch hundreds, if not thousands, of Chinese fans follow the Astralis bus as they left the Shangri-La on the Third Ring Road. They're just following, trying to tell the players how much they love them and how much they enjoy their play. So yeah, I won't say anything definite, but we'll definitely be back in China to do a lot more events. It's just a matter of when and where. And to be fair, we have been in Shanghai before with China Joy.
Okay, so we're looking forward to the IEM this year. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for your speech. Okay, so next, please welcome Mr. Frank Yang from Asia Digital Entertainment Group Limited.
Hi guys, thanks for having me. So just a quick intro. I'm just like one of the old guys here, been in the industry for more than 15, now I'm counting like 18 years now. So I've been in this space of where esports was still not called a esports industry. It was basically just the gaming industry, and been well, if I use the word in on a broader term, been involved in all the digital entertainment aspect, from gaming to animation to comics, and myself been doing this for many years. I have the privilege to work with a lot of great partners, and all of them are here. ESL, Skoga, Nick, and Scott, CPL. It's really been fun to be part of the one of the players to see history happening right in front of our eyes. So my company, ADE, is a Asian-based investment company that focus on the digital and entertainment world. So we have investment in gaming companies, esports companies, and animation company in the past, and we continue to do that. And one of those things that why we are very excited to be always constantly looking at this space is because this is one space that you can always see that is constantly growing, and especially for me personally, seeing how that becomes from something that is just like a subculture, not a mainstream thing, grow into a mainstream thing. That is all really very exciting for my company and for us, because we see that things that actually grows from nothing to where they are, it can be huge. So which is why we've been constantly in this space, and one of those things to be part of this whole process. So on the key topic today, we talked about how esports has now become the new language of social networking between the youth. I think this is really nothing new per se, because it's actually a replication of what all the other entertainment in the past, and how they constantly become the language that youth or the young generation use to communicate. Look at music, look at the comics, look at animation and gaming. They all have, through the years, when they started as a subculture, when they grew, when it becomes big, that becomes a common language the kids will end up using to communicate with each other. And especially so in the recent years, when we see this explosion of especially with the internet highway, we see this even accelerating faster. And that one of the key beneficiary from this whole superhighway is all the traditional entertainment, like the music, the movies, and the animation, to the new form of entertainment of gaming. And then esports as a sub part of that has now grew out from gaming and to become standing on its own as a standalone industry. So through this whole internet thing, what it really does is that it has actually connected all the kids even more closer globally. So where in the past, everybody is just they have the small little lingo, the character, the way they speak to each other locally when they talk about music or talk about animation. But from the internet, with the advent of internet and the highway that makes things move so fast, we see that the communication has moved out from local to global. So then you start seeing that there's a lot of all these proliferation or even the creation of these new terms between the youth to communicate with each other. And especially when gaming have came to be over the last 20 years, you can see that it become even more stronger. That is really one industry that is really, if I use the word language agnostic and even cultural agnostic, because it's through this gaming that you see all the kids are actually doing the same thing. They all enjoy it, although English was the key medium, but we also see games that came out from Japan and Korea that was very, very popular around the world. So people were all, the kids were all now, the youth are all now basically absorbing in all this new gaming culture. And then along the way, they actually recreate it into a language of their own. And even more so now, we can see that when esports came out from the gaming industry, game titles like League of Legends, like Counter-Strike, the earlier days of Warcraft 3 and StarCraft 2, and with the latest new titles like the cell phone titles like Mobile Legend, this PC game from like the Valorant, they actually further accelerate and create even faster this adoption of, if I use the word, universal language that all the youth now use to communicate with each other. And I really see that even running more faster and faster. So definitely, I think esports as a new form of social networking language is definitely true. And I think it will become even stronger. And especially so now that all the gamers and the youth around the world all enjoy the same kind of content that they actually taking in from the game itself, from the esports. And thanks to people like ESL and the CPL in the past, making esports become more and more entertaining. And with GEF and Skoga making the whole ecosystem even more and more, if I use the word, stable, to constantly churn out all this top high-rate content for the whole global youth community to consume. I think that through all these things, we will definitely see that the esports is no longer just a new form of communication language between the youth. It will be the form itself and leading the way, especially even now that we can see between gaming and esports, they are actually taking in all the great stuff from all the old entertainment form like animation, comics, and music, and actually if I would use the word repackage it, but putting them together and recreate a new form of entertainment that has the basis of gaming and esports as the base. And then when they create all those things out, I think I would say this, that esports will be the new social networking language of the future. So that's basically my view. And like I said, I will keep it short and I will leave it to the masters to talk more about it.
Thanks, Frank. Actually, Frank elaborated the connection between the culture and the esports. From the other side, I mean the entertainment side. Esports is a very important part of youth culture in animation, comics, music, videos. So I suppose your speech would give us more, a whole new understanding about how the esports impact on the culture from this angle, from this entertainment content angle. So thank you your wonderful speech. Thank you very much. And
my pleasure.
And the last speaker for today is Mr. Danny Lee from Beijing Joy Network Technology Company Limited. Danny, welcome.
Hi, thanks, Kelly. And thanks everyone for having me here. This is Danny Lee Haibin from Beijing, China. Yeah, hi. Just echoing the all the masters previously, they have talked a lot regarding the esports industry. And it's truly speaking that esports has grown from a single small event to a global movement. So esports now is playing a more and more important communication role, industry and economy roles globally. So I'm probably going to say something insights from the standpoint and my observation from China. So probably 3 keywords to share with you. The first is influence. Now esports has played a much bigger influence than ever in China. Just a number to share with you that the owner of King World Cup was held on 2020, which is last year, and the viewership from the China has exceeded for over 500 million people. And that's tremendous. Like we have seen that over 1/3 of PRC's citizenship has to view that esports tournament, and the influence of that is gigantic. Well, we can see that there's the League of Legends Pro League. The owner of King Pro Leagues have created their home base court in various cities of China. Now there has over 20 professional clubs have set up their esports stadium. They have their home teams in various provinces and cities. So esports has created a huge and much bigger influence fields than ever, particularly in China. The second keyword here is economy. We can share with you that more and more, according to various researchers from China, esports has played much bigger roles in particularly when we say the industry of animation, gaming, and esports. Now we can see that esports has contributed over 1/3 of the total revenues and the billings of all the, we call it the digital entertainment industry. Well, there's another thing that we have to face a brand new, very challenging environment, business environment facing the COVID virus situation globally. We are changing our environment's behaviors because of the virus situation globally. And many countries have to face that through that way. As people can see that China has taken a very immediate, effective ways controlling the virus. Well, as the esports industry, we can see that it's an industry where that we have very limited influence by the virus status. Well, we also have the business growth environments here in China. And there's one very interesting thing that, just today, one of the gaming tournament, which is owner of King World Cup, was awarded by the government as a very good example of the booming up and recovery of the economy. That's a very good sign of how esports is booming up and support the digital innovation industry, well support the economy globally, well particularly in China.
Yes.
The third keyword is the Generation Z. The President Wang Tan has mentioned that it's definitely the keywords was mentioned lots of times by various environments. Generation Z is where we cannot ignore at any circumstance. Particularly in one of the researches that we mentioned in China is quite different from other regions of globally. It's the majority consuming market decision maker was 40-something at my age. But the key, yes, we are paying the bills, but the decision makers was the people around the 20s. They are making the decisions. So basically, it's the youth who are making the decisions of the consumer behavior. Well, it's the adults and parents paying the bills. So actually, in other words, who could influence the youth, which we can say the Generation Z, who owns the market currently, and who owns that market in the future. So Generation Z is actually who are the key players here in China. I think that's pretty particularly quite different from other geos or regions. Yes, I'm very honored to be one of the enthusiasts, gamers who has devoted quite a lot in the esports industry. Yes, I see all the masters here, right? We have all devoted here in this industry for over 10 years. And it's a wonderful journey, we have to say. There's lots of learnings. This esports industry is like a species. It's like a species with a very high intelligence. It can self-regulate every 2 years. So with the over 10 years development of esports industry, we see that this industry has becoming more and more promising and more can influence, not among only the industry players, but also the youth, and its influence has become globally. Scott just mentioned that one of the words that esports has various dimensions now. It's working on different directions. We are very delighted to see that we are also launching a VR esports league here globally in China, and we are creating the first 5G network plus 8K broadcasting technologies. So we can see that esports has become a market field for the cutting edge technology globally, and we see that, we can see it's a future, and technology and esports plus could have a brighter future. And we have to say, facing globally, well, China is one of the biggest esports industry or markets globally. We can see that it also created a global communication platform of youth. One of our partners who has initiated a global community university students esports league. That's created a very friendly communication platforms for the youth, Generation Zs. They can talk to each other in their language, create in their friendship and in their environment. So we have to say, we are very happy to see esports has grown in the past 10 years from a single tiny event sponsored by some clients to a global movement, I mean. And I'm very happy to be with the whole journey and with the whole masters. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. Actually, we can see that the esports in Chinese market is booming very fastly, right?
That's right. That's true.
Yeah, actually, as we all know, Daniel is not only a successful businessman, but also an experienced and professional expert in the esports. We respect him. We respect you not only for your outstanding ability, but also your contributions to the esports, especially China connected with the world by esports. So I believe that Chinese esports would be a vigorous new social language for the youth, right?
That's true.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I have a small gift for the masters and for you. Yeah, so, the esports future. Okay, people come in.
So is there anybody?
That's everybody.
Scott, he basically said prosper. Basically, that's what that thing says.
Yeah, Scott, it is kind of a lot of money.
Yes.
So thank you, the speech for all the speakers. I think this is a dialogue stage, and let's go with the next part. It's kind of Q&A part. In this part, we will have 3 youth representatives, and they will have several questions for all the experts online, and so please answer for them. Okay, let me introduce. The first one is Chen Hongyu. He is a professional reporter in sports from Sports Business Journal of China region. So he's so professional. Hongyu, are you online?
I'm here.
Hey, hi, welcome.
Hi.
So do you have any questions for the experts online?
首先大家好，就是我知道有同传老师，所以但是我还是想用。
Good evening. I know even though we have interpreters, however, I would like to express how appreciating I am. First of all, I got the invitation from the hosts, especially CIPG, Dewey Center as the youth representatives to raise questions to our experts. I will introduce myself both in Chinese and English and Chinese. My name is Chen Hongyu. I am a professional reporter in esports. Actually, I work for a journal in the US. Also, I teach in sports business in China. I also share my experiences in colleges and universities in China. So I have learned a lot. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Before I ask my question, I just want to say it's been a great honor to be here and represent the Chinese young generation to ask questions to leaders from this extraordinary industry. So my name is Chen Hongyu. I'm an esports business journalist from the Esports Observer and the Sports Business Journal. I also work with Chinese esports education company, Dodo Esports, for some esports academic research and teach some students about general esports at Chinese universities. So today I have two questions for Nicholas. So how do you, as an esports federation, define what games are esports? So when the esports industry, fans, governments, or other governing bodies, and even Olympic Committee in different countries can't agree. Like for example, fans and the community will always decide which are the most popular games, but then the Olympic Committee will only recognize sports games, like calling them virtual sports. And another question is for Eric Zhou, my old friend. ESL has been hosting tournaments for more than 20 years. So it knows what esports title have potential for a long time. So what do you think is the biggest challenge for an esports title trying to find a global audience? And what common traits do the current top games like Dota 2, League of Legends, and the CSGO have that make them so successful internationally? Thank you.
Oh,
So Nick, do you want to go first?
Yeah, thank you, Hongyi. It's nice to meet you, and thank you for that question. Right, I think you asked a very good question. I think it's a tough one, right? In terms of esports reaching so-called at the international level, being how do federations and Olympic committees choose these games, right? I think it's something that's still very new. I remember. I think about 3 years back when I was leading the delegation from Singapore for the Asian Games, and I brought a team. There were certain games that was being chosen that were not played in Singapore, or when we sent the team up, and then like we realized that the versions they were playing was there was some it was not consistent, right? And I think this is the early days, and like I mentioned just now, it still feels like very early as far as GF is concerned. What we do is that we have a commission. We have a commission or a committee that have different representatives from everywhere that come together and on a regular basis to discuss about this topic. And I think for those of you who are in the industry, be aware that there are many considerations, right? And I'll just mention a few. I think first of all, we look at the popularity and consistency of the game across the different markets around the world. How stable it is. Do we think that the game is growing? It's going to be here to stay? And I think that's one obviously important consideration. At the same time, in esports, when you have a title, a company has spent a lot of time and effort and money to make it, and they own the intellectual property, and intellectual property is an aspect or issue in esports that's not present or found so much in other sports, right? I always joke. I say in football you can put up two cones and get a ball in a field you can play, but in esports we actually have to work closely with the people who the folks who make the game, right? And I think because of that, the support of the publishers to say that, well, they want to support, I think it's important, but it's not just about them wanting to support. Well, do we think that they can support this in the long term, right? Are they here to stay? Because we're talking about commercial companies. Some of them could sell the company, some of them could shut down the companies and all that. That also becomes a issue, right? And maybe the last thing I'll mention around the choice of game is what we call alignment of values, right? And this is something that the International Olympic Committee, IOC, President Thomas Bach, he talked about, right? He talked about the IOC drawing red lines, right, around certain games that do not align with the Olympic values, right, in the sense, and I think from the point of view, right, whether it's with federations, Olympic committees, or even governments, right, or like for myself, I work closely with the Ministry of Education, right. I think that the choice of game aligning, like with more mainstream values, right, and that more widely accepted by society, I think is going to be important. So I hope that helps. It is a tough one, right? It is always very tough, and sometimes I look at certain decisions that's made not necessarily by us, but by sometimes like in in like regional games and all that. I gave example just now of Asian games. I look at it and it's like I wonder too. It's like, wow, it must be really tough for that committee to have decided on those games, right? So we hope that I think along the process as esports become more and more widely accepted in the sports and Olympic movements and all that, that this process will become easier over time. Thank you. Eric, you want to?
Eric?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for handing that over, Nick. Eddie, it's good to see you again. It's been a while. But yeah, getting into your question, I want to clarify. You're asking how does a game become a internationally renowned esports title? Is that correct?
Yeah, for example, like the title I just said, League of Legends, Dota 2, CS:GO, they have like more than 10 years history. But recently we saw we've seen the rising of mobile esports, but unlikely, like we've seen how we have the big achievement about Honor of Kings, Peacekeeper Elite, PUBG Mobile, but we haven't seen much like Western country has that mobile tournament. So if we regard esports as a worldwide language, so what do you think is the biggest challenge of that? Like we've only seen like League of Legends are hardcore PC games, like those games achieve that level. So yeah, so that's my question.
So effectively, these are two separate things, right? Let's tackle the first part, which is what do Dota 2, League of Legends, CS:GO have in common that make them a internationally renowned esports quote unquote success, right?
Yeah.
One would say that they're still growing. One would say they have peaked. Some would say they have they're declining. Some would say they're still rising. So there's various ways to look at it. And then we'll separate the next question into how mobile games can potentially take that spot, or will mobile games take over the spotlight of the international renown of the PC games. So if we look at Dota 2, League of Legends, and CS:GO, right? To be fair, what do they have in common? One's a shooter, two are MOBAs. One could argue that League and Dota come from the same kernel of the original Dota that came from Warcraft 3 in many ways. But ultimately, I would say the games don't have that much in common. What they do have in common, and what has made them successful, is a strong developer and publisher support that has helped grow the local communities of the games, of the players of the games, to get them further, to keep pushing them to play, and then constantly updating the games to keep it fresh and inviting and simple for newer players to enter. So if we look at I would say CS:GO is a bit different compared to League and Dota, right? League and Dota have a much lower barrier of entry compared to CS:GO. First-person shooters are always much more difficult for new players to acclimate themselves and jump in directly, whereas MOBAs are a lot more simpler. It's point and click, whereas shooters, you have to actually have the reflexes, but you can train that. So ultimately, what has led to the successes of these games is, one, they're easily accessible. Two, they're constantly evolving and growing. And three, they have massive support from communities, from esports organizations such as ESL, SCOGA, CPL, etc. They have lots of support from the publishers themselves to keep them going and continually pushing. So it really comes down to a myriad of factors. What's to say, there's lots of these games from various publishers around the world who want to be an esports title, who claim to be esports ready, but ultimately the games may not succeed. The games may come out for about 6 months and then they fail. And why do they fail? Is it because the players aren't playing the game? There's no fan base? Or is it because there's no organization coming to pick it up to promote it as an esports tournament? Is it because there's not enough publisher support, or the publisher has run out of money to continue to market the game? Is it because the communications level that the publisher or developer had to the community failed to begin with? So there was no growth of the local community? Or was it the local community was too small and then they didn't get enough support from the publisher, etc., to push them to grow to even higher stance? So it's kind of like KFC and regular fried chicken, right? There's 11 secret herbs and spices that make this special piece of fried chicken that no one can really say besides the ones who have actually succeeded in making it, whereas everybody else is just still trying to figure out what the spices are to mix it into. So taking that segue into moving into the next level of what you're talking about with mobile games, and I would say mobile games don't need to compete for the spotlight in the same way as the PC games. If we look at it from a Western and Eastern, West versus East kind of mentality, right? I think Scott said it very well, very early in the beginning of this panel, which was that the Western markets are playing catch up. Asia, Southeast Asia, Korea, Japan. Well, I would actually cut out Korea and Japan from this, but mostly specifically China, Southeast Asia, Africa, and these places are quote unquote mobile first locations. And why would I say that? Because they didn't grow with the PC base. Their massive populations grew with the mobile phone. They started, well, the virtual background blacked out my phone. But yeah, these people started with the phone. That was their first true gaming device. So is it disingenuous to say that playing esports or playing games on a phone is not playing games compared to playing on a PC? This brings to the mind the whole PC master race kind of mentality, right? But in reality, it's everybody is gaming, and cross-play gaming, especially with games like Fortnite, and Fortnite coming around, having people being able to play on PC and mobile at the same time and console at the same time, has actually lowered that barrier, right? And so what I'm trying to say here is, on a global basis, mobile gaming will continue to take the spotlight, and it will in many ways take the spotlight away from PC gaming, but it's not a detriment. PC and mobile gaming can coexist on this world until the inflection point where PC and mobile meet in the middle, and your mobile is able to render graphic processes at the level of a RTX 390 or 3090, right? So we're not at that point, that merge point yet, but we're getting close. But until that happens, both can simultaneously exist. So then, to answer your question, how do games like Peacekeeper Elite, PUBG Mobile, these mobile games, how are they doing out in Western markets? How are they performing? They're growing. They're growing exponentially. It's incredible to see how fast they're growing, right? If you look at Free Fire as an example from Garena, that title is exploding in India. It's massive in South America, and particularly in Brazil. It's growing in North America. You see some populations in Canada playing that game. Mobile games are going to be, mobile esports will be, and already are in many ways, the same level of esports as the PC, the League of Legends, the CS:GOs, the Dota 2s. I mean, for example, we know that Nicholas and the Skoga guys are working in Singapore with the Free Fire World Cup for Garena, right? That thing's supposed to be massive. What, $2 million prize pool? MLBB was $1 million prize pool. AOV, when they did their program in Thailand and Vietnam, that was also $500,000 to $1 million in terms of prize pool. So the participation, the viewership, it's all there. It's just not gone to the Western market in the same way it has taken over the Eastern market, but the numbers in the Eastern market already encapsulate everything that you would get in the West anyway. So it's already there. Mobile gaming is here to stay, and it's not a detriment or a negative. I hope that answers your question.
Okay.
So that's all. So thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your question, and thank you for the answers from Mr. Nicholas and Mr. Eric Joe. So the second, the user representative is Yan Xu. He graduated from Columbia University as master. And the most important thing is he's an amateur of Dota 2, and he has ranked top 200 globally. So how incredible, right? So Yan Xu, do you have any questions for the experts?
Yeah, thank you, host, for introducing me. Hello, everyone, and thank you for the panelists for your insights about esports. As the time runs out, I'm gonna cut my question very short and introduce myself a little bit. As Kelly said, I used to have a 6K MMR, and I used to rank top 200 in the North American region. I used to participate in amateur games and enjoy the Dota 2 community. I attended ESL 1 New York in 2015, and maybe Eric was there, and maybe we met at that time while I was taking my master's degree at Columbia. I won a regional champion in Perfect World Dota 2 City Challenge in 2019. And right now I'm working in the financial industry, though I don't have that much time to play. After I got married last year, I still have my passion for esports. So I have two questions today to address to panelists. First one, I think that goes to Scott. My question would be, so how you talk about community service and maybe do some charity about esports. Are there any specific idea that you have about how to let more amateur players like me join and participate in esports? For example, maybe amateur players can also play in online and offline competitions and meet friends. That's my first question. And my second question goes to Danny, Li Xiansheng. So you talk about the massive Chinese esports market. What's your point of view on the Chinese, on the emerging Chinese esports markets? And what advice do you want to share to those who want to join the industry? And thank you.
I'll go first if that's okay, Danny. Thank you. All right, thank you for the question. So I think that there are already a significant number of amateur leagues that have been out there. CPL has operated CAL, or Cyber Athlete Amateur League. We started that in 1997, and I think what may be part of the issue is just in gaming in general is there's such a high focus on the professional level because there's limited marketing dollars. I mean, if we're completely candid and honest, and I think that Eric kind of covered it when he was talking earlier, esports is still basically a marketing play. All other traditional sports have a sustainable system underneath them, from little league or high school all the way to pro sports, with a step system that you follow the people from a very young stage to an amateur stage. So if I'm into bowling or tennis, I can play in an amateur league, get status, go into a pro-am, which is part pro players, part amateur players. And then you have to have a certain level or criteria before you can go pro. Esports, we skip all that. A 15-year-old that wants to go sign up for a competition and thinks he's good enough can instantly be called pro. The definition pro just means that someone either signed you to a contract or you made money. And none of the organizations at this point have been able to sit down at a table globally, like every other sport has, and says, here's the steps that you need to go to be given a title. And once you could do that, your amateur players like yourself, and congratulations on your marriage.
Thank you.
Because you've had to step down means that now there is an abundance of tournaments that that you can get into, and pros can't play in it, and kids can't play in it. So if I go and I went on Google right now and Google tennis amateur, they would list 100, maybe more tournaments that I could play in, and it would say, you can't have a ranking over this or under this. And there's all the actually there's the amateur sports leagues in every city and town. I mean, there's 10 tournaments. Or I play golf, there's like 10 golf tournaments here in Iowa that I can play. And if I rank in the top 3 or 4, I have the ability, but I don't have to go up to the next level and play at the next level. But you have a ranking, and all organizations in golf agree to it. And so you can only jump up. I can't just go and play. I can't go play with Tiger Woods unless I pay him. Well, maybe I could now. He's kind of dropping. But anyway, but the point being that I think until all the organizations and having someone like what Nick's doing and these global organizations that are coming up and saying all organizations have to agree in the process. You know, you can't be a pro if you are 16 years old and you're still in high school, because you should be concentrating in education. And once you graduate, then you can go full time, because how can you spend contractually, you're signing a contract, contractually 40 hours a week in training to play in $1 million tournament if you still have your studies, right? And you can't be called pro unless you've gone through an amateur level and gotten a certain ranking. So I think that once we can do that, I think that what you're going to find is esports is going to grow exponentially, just because you need to have those brackets. We also need the achievements, right? You need to be able to have some sort of system where in all other sports, you have championships at the little league level and the college level, and what you do is you follow it. That adds longevity to the sport. So I think that once that happens, I think that we will see a tremendous amount of money and development in the amateur level. Right now, if I'm Riot Games or I'm any organization, I've got so much marketing dollars to spend. If I'm Razer, 50 organizations are coming to me for money for tournaments. I have to pick which ones I do, and it's a marketing spend. So I'm going to do the one that either gets me the most new gamers, the most sales in my game, or sells the most product. It's like all the money goes to the top of the pyramid. None of the money goes to the bottom of the pyramid, although the bottom of the pyramid has the most number of players. So right. we need to flip that. We need to flip that funnel upside down. That's what we're trying to do with our organization, which is pumping a lot of money into the college level. I mean, I would rather have more college players playing in college leagues than money being pumped into the pros. Amateur and college is where the money should be going into. That's where your mass is. And then you can start playing again and buy your wife a new car, or, you know, something like that, because of that ranking is pretty good. So thank you very much. And again, congratulations on your marriage. Danny?
Thanks again.
It's very cool to have you. I'm also a Dota player. The last thing before my sleep every day is to play either a Dota or auto chess. I've been physically been to TI through TI2. Wow. I'm sure probably we encounter each other in some of the previous event in Seattle, because I'm one of the PRC China team fans, right? Like the Wings, like whatever. But it's good to meet you here. By the way, I own eHome. You know that esports club?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, 10 years before.
Cool. That's very cool. That's very cool.
Yeah. So you're asking that maybe some advice for you, for the talents, maybe for China players. There's some or China youth. We have to say that Scott raised a very good point. That play as esports athletes is a very challenging kind of way. You know, because first, that life cycle is very short. The second is, there's only tiny part of people can reach the global top. So we have to say it's only the very talented people can play as esports athletes. But in other words, because esports has become a global movement, we can see more and more job opportunities as a career development path. You know, there's a new job research in China that in PRC, we have 300,000 job empties requirements as a sports employment. So which means we have at least that kind of job opportunities. We are very short-handed on esports industry. So if there's any words or any suggestion for the youth, for the Generation Z, so don't look at esports athletes as your only ways of joining or playing in esports. We have all kinds of varieties in esports industry, like streaming, like broadcasting, like tournament management, etc. So you can actually leverage that and at least starting to look at that compared to traditional sports and against the esports. You can see there's lots of opportunities. And at least we can see in China, in the continued 3 years, the short-handed situation will continue to increase. So continue to following what you want to do, and maybe it's just focusing on some rather than playing games. We can say devoted a little bit more for bigger roles in esports industry. Well, there's a last word for the youth. If you got time, play a game with your friend, because that's your priceless dream. Thank you.
Thank you for your answers, and thanks for the sharing, and thanks Scott for having my marriage mentioned twice. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, answers from Danny and Scott, and thank you for your humor sense. And the last one is Wu Jiahao. He's official caster of King Pro League, another professional representative, right? So Jiahao, are you online? Do you have any questions?
Yeah, all right. Okay, hello, it's my pleasure to be here. My name is Wu Jiahao, you can call me Jacko. I'm in China, I'm a King Pro League official caster. I cast the game on King, so I have 2 questions. The first question I was planning to ask Eric, but Eric just said a lot about it, so I want to ask Nicholas, because you just mentioned that a game, Mobile Legends, during the speech, and I heard this game from my friend. It seems it's popular in Malaysia and Singapore. So we all know that when we talk about esports culture, there will be a lot of PC games, they said, but the popularity of mobile games in China is also very high. So I would like to know the current development level and the perspective of the mobile games in the world. So what do you think, Nicholas?
Well, nice to meet you, Jiahao, and thanks for that the question. And indeed, I think I echo a lot of what Eric shared just now, right? And everyone's so humble, right? And I think Eric, Frank, and Scott, and all that they've in fact CPL have worked with many of our initiatives here in Singapore, right? And I'm looking forward to see their programs that they created with us in Southeast Asia work here in China as well. And I think for Eric, ESL. Together with Twitch, helped us when we first started our esports academy a few years back as well, and they're all very familiar, right, with the market. And I think I myself started as a PC esports player, and I just seen the growth of mobile esports, right? And I think sometimes it's just unbelievable, right? When you look at just in the region, like I think was someone who mentioned that we're helping to host the Free Fire World Series, right? Eric mentioned it just now, right? In Singapore, end of this month, right? And just the numbers just blows me away, right? Just the game has 100 million players a day, right? 100 million DAU, right? And it's there's a $2 million US prize pool behind it, and we flew in players from all over the world. Some of the places I'm not sure even heard about, right? All the way from, you have from Brazil, from Russia, from Southeast Asian countries. So I had to fly in and process visas for players from Algeria, from Georgia, from Iraq, from all sorts of places, right? To get them to Singapore to compete, right? Just talk about the global nature of this game, right? And just now you mentioned as well, not just Free Fire, but games like Mobile Legends, in China, games like Wangzhe Rongyao, right? These are all huge popularity, and I will echo Eric's point that actually it doesn't necessarily cannibalize, right? PC games in a big way, right? There is some overlaps, right? And then I think that there's a interesting equilibrium, and I think in our part of the world here in Southeast Asia, right? We have about 10-11 markets here. some of the infrastructure for some of the countries have not been so great, and so a lot of what these countries did was they leapfrogged from like a landline from a direct cable internet connection. They went straight to mobile, to 3G to 4G. Now they're talking about 5G and all that. And you find that you may not be able to play a PC game so well in some let's say a remote village in let's say in Indonesia, but you can play Mobile Legends, right? Or you can play Free Fire. And I think with that accessibility, I think was also a point that Eric mentioned just now, right? That it has really spurred the growth, right? And I think some of the stuff that we are seeing, right, before, for example, Mobile Legends, one of the most professional leagues in Southeast Asia was League of Legends in Vietnam, right? VCS is one of the top leagues in the region, 5 million players and all of that, right? And then, but when Mobile Legends started their professional league in Indonesia, they fill up the slots, and each of the team owners or the franchise slots owners paid, I would say, at least $1 million, right? I won't say how many, but millions of dollars, right? In buying up these slots. And when 2 years later, when I asked these team owners, I said, so did you enjoy, like how did your investment do, right? You obviously spent a lot of money, and the response was the same, right? We made back our money, and we're so happy, and we wish that we want to do more and all that. So that's just unimaginable, right? In a sense, if you think about it from let's say a country like, let's say, Indonesia, so I know that your question is a very big one, right? I can talk about it from many aspects, but I think a lot of points has also been said about the growth of mobile esports, how it compares versus PC, and I think from us in Singapore, we are having like front row seats, right, in terms of the growth of the mobile esports. Even like League of Legends developer Riot Games have also made mobile version. They're launching stuff here in Southeast Asia. China is a pioneer, right, in this Wangzhe Rongyao and some of these even QQ Racing and some of these games, right, are doing so well in China. I'll perhaps end off with this point and say that esports and is someone said to me, right, esports is, first of all, is colorblind, right? It's colorblind in our part of the world, right? We have many religions, many cultures and all that. And once you're in esports, you're online, right? You're digital. People don't really care, right? Whether you are what race, what religion, what gender you are, in a sense. And there was one country in Asia, I won't name which one, when someone said that he organized a tournament, and he said 8,000 women signed up for the tournament to compete, right? And I said, are you sure? Like, did I hear it right? 8,000 women signed up for the competition? And I say, why? He said, in this country, right, women are discouraged from participating in physical sports. So they end up all at home playing esports. And when he held a tournament, everybody showed up and participated, right? This is the beauty, and this is the world we live in today, right? It's digital first. For a lot of digital natives like some of us here today, esports is the first sport, right? And I think we're just excited for where esports will go from here, right? Yesterday, it's been from, we've seen PC, we've seen console, and we've seen mobile. Who knows where we'll go next, right? And I think Dan, you mentioned about investments is making in VR esports. I'm excited and want to see more of that action here in the rest of Asia. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucas. I learned a lot. Thank you for sharing. So here's the second question. The next question I want to give to everyone. So because you are all senior experts in esports, you are certainly familiar with all kinds of tournaments, and you have heard a lot of commentaries. For you, in your understanding, what parts of esport caster should be done well, or what kind of perfect caster should be in your mind? So I like to, everyone can share your mind.
Can I go last?
Okay.
I'll go. If I can, I'll go first, and I'll keep it relatively short.
Right,
So I think it's a fantastic question. So the very first, before you had streamers, we had shoutcasters. The very first casting was TSN back in 1997 at one of the first events. And basically we were doing the Quake. And the company decided that we wanted to go ahead and treat it like a sport, and we had basically commentation that was going on top of that. And then Twitch, who's done a fantastic job and got purchased up by Amazon, had actually done 2 evolutions before they were Twitch. They were a media company that did regular sports, and then extreme sports, and then their third evolution, they became Twitch and did streaming for gaming. The interesting thing that we're talking about today is I don't believe that esports would be at the level it is today if it wasn't for the casters and the streamers, because they're actually the voice of communication. Esports is not as global as everybody thinks it is. We started peer-to-peer. If we didn't have casters, none of the massive events that League of Legends or anybody has done would have ever gotten to the level that they got to, because for every person that shows up in an event, it's a multiplier of 100 that's watching them online. Gaming is about K factor. It's about getting people to, because your friend's watching it and they're interested in it and they're playing it, to want to watch it and expand. And in every sport, it's always the same. It's the talent that makes the sport. Watching 4 guys run down a field kicking a ball is not exciting if you don't know exactly how they've done it, the statistics, that how they got there, their history, all that stuff. Talent makes a show, whether it's sports, whether it's TV. Without you, without talent, without the proper systems and everything else, you're also what's actually accelerating not only the growth of gaming and the visibility of gaming, but the technology, because more and more people want to do it. Otherwise, we could throw an API call onto a game, people could log in and they could watch it through their observer mode. But we're watching you. We're watching you explain your vision of what you're seeing on the screen and why they're doing it. And that speculation is what draws people to the game. So I think that the future of gaming is only going to get better if the future of streaming or casting continues to grow. And my last example of this is, not only did the Olympics announce that they were working with Intel to bring gaming into the Olympics, but then they announced with Twitch and our partner company Ready Up that they are going to be casting the actual Olympic sports. Why are they doing that? Because no one under the age of 25 is watching the TV. What they're doing is they want to see people like you, sir, people that are watching what's going on and saying it from an angle that they can understand. I mean, watching me, if I were a professional caster, talk about gymnastics is not going to strike a nerve with my daughter. But you, with hundreds of casters casting on Twitch and talking about what's going on in the Olympics, someone is going to strike a chord with the youth, and then those people are going to go ahead and go up to the next level. So I think we're seeing the next evolution of streamers, not just in gaming. It's that merge of cultures that Kelly was talking about earlier for the first question, that those cultures are starting to do this. And as they continue to merge because of casters, South by Southwest, the music concerts, everybody's doing it. Everybody's going to streamers to let them make comments about what's happening. That's the future. And so we're proud to have been part of the original group that created it, with like I said, with like people like TSN and everything else. And we are completely engaged in watching young people like you. ESL's done a fantastic job. They brought production value through the roof. I mean, it's unreal what they've been able to do in the last 20 years. Nicholas, I really appreciate people like Nicholas and Danny, because they've helped develop this with infrastructure that was never developed to handle something like this. I mean, when you're talking about 1 million people watching online with, the first DreamHack that we started participating with back 15 years ago, we were running OS3s. I mean, the pipe was like this big. Now they have to be this big, right? And so it's amazing what you guys have been able to do and the technology that's been able to work backwards and everything else. So that's kind of my comment. I'm sorry I did want to go a little bit longer, but I think you guys are the future across all sports.
Thank you, Scott. I got a keyword. Just the first is the talent, and the window is the way to work hard, right? We should have more connection with the audience. Just like you said, we should tell them the story, tell them about all the tournament and all the team, even the players themselves. Yeah, I learned a lot. So thank you, Scott. Mm-hmm.
Anybody else, or can I guess I'll go. Yeah, so I agree with pretty much 95% of what Scott said, right? The only subset difference of what I think here is this on a level of professional casters, right? If we look at professional casters as a whole, I would say a good percentage of them are, for lack of a better term, they're not traditionally trained. They're self-taught. A lot of them watch the games, they watch traditional sports, and they're learning how to do it themselves, and they're growing, and they're doing a phenomenal job of it. And then you have the next top tier ones who have taken this self-taught talent and then applied it to something some of them potentially go and learn, take courses on public speaking, take courses on what shoutcasting is, and do broadcast work, potentially doing some like on-screen work for broadcast. So they've taken it to the next level. But if we look at the core of shoutcasting and where it is, right, it's particularly color commentary. If you look at traditional sport as an example, right, who were the first color commentators for baseball all the way back in like the 1940s, even earlier, right? There were the old people just sitting on the corners just talking about shooting the breeze, explaining the stats, talking about it. Casting and commentating is a specific art form that takes lots of time, lots of practice, and it takes a lot of talent to begin with, but it takes a lot of time and effort to build into it. And it takes a certain level of, for lack of a better term, structure for it to grow. So traditional casting, being on the stage at a 王者荣耀 世界杯 in VSPN and sitting at the caster desk is not the same thing as me sitting at home playing a game and streaming and casting and explaining to what the audience what I'm doing. It's a specific art form that requires a lot of time that goes into it. And so what the industry needs now, specifically in terms of the esports side, is to be relatively absorbed into what the traditionals have done, right? If we look at traditional sports, a lot of the color commentators now, people who are coming out, who are on ESPN, who are reporting on basketball, on NFL, on the NBA and the NFL, these people went to universities where they studied, some of them studied broadcast journalism or broadcast techniques, where they learned the ways to speak elegantly and properly on broadcast. And this level, excuse me, my dog is barking, but this level of professionalism is required to bring esports casting to the next level. And it's something that esports, I won't say necessarily needs or demands, but it's something that it will benefit from by merging in closely with what the establishment has. And it would also benefit the establishment in terms of education and universities, etc., to have the esports talent come in and bring their perspective and their changes on how color commentary is given. So on a holistic view, we still need a lot more structure, and schools are not necessarily the answer, but they will help because they bring that structure, and esports will help also create the next level of color commentary for the NBA, the NFL, etc., going forward. I hope that sort of explains it. But yeah, again, I am 95 to 97% in agreement with everything Scott just said.
All right, I get it. Thank you. Thank you, Eric.
So sorry about that. Because of the limited time, I suppose that's all for the answers. All right?
Okay, all right. I can finish my part. Thank you once again. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your joining us. Okay, actually, we still have several minutes for the audience, and there's a question from one of the audience. So please connect with Sejur Zhang. Hello? Mr.
Hello,
Zhang.
everyone. Hello, everybody.
Hello, hello. Hello, glad to meet you. And any questions for the expert?
Yeah, just one short question for Scott and Danny. It's about the community, because our topic today is about the common language, right? So the esports, the gaming, it's all about the common language for the Z generation. So how do you do to bring like using the common language for community, and after that to create a community for communication to connect all the world? So what did you do in CPL or in the VR competition in Beijing? How do you do to bring the people who like VR or diverse game like Counter-Strike, Rainbow Six, or Dota, like all the gaming or competition games together to like have a community to make the industry better and make the people to see each other? Because the meaning of the language is not just people like to speak to each other, it's also connecting like people to meet each other, because like we're saying it's a gaming, so it's basically online game, but the same thing offline. What did you do? So that's my question.
So
Danny, why don't you go first?
So sorry for interrupting. Considering of the limited time, please answer the question in 2 minutes. Thanks. Very short answer.
Thanks, Scott. I will take over first.
Okay.
You raised a very good point that the communication is much more than language. So esports is because it's not a language. It's just people's hobby. You know, we using it's a lifestyle. So youth globally, we see the Generation Z, they like this lifestyle, and they adapt this lifestyle, create lots of their own communication platforms and methods, and also the community. We can different organizations leveraging this global movement. Well, you know, there's another thing you are raising, another very good point. That community is people who gather together and make people know each other and to understand each other rather than talk and just having meetings. So esports create a very casual environment for people, but who are pursuing same or similar goals in different environments. Though we are talking different language, we have different religions, we have different colors of people, but esports actually deserve the same. And from the heritage of the esports, it's deserve very similar kind of things of people pursuing out winning and to gain with honesty and heritage. Digital world has created this, Earth smaller than ever. So rather than people just gather together virtually, people can through each other through online platforms like what we did today. So actually, esports is more like a dual tracking twins. This is an online channel, and this is offline channel. Yeah. We can have ground finals, ground ceremonies, while we will have a very limited, a very generic connection through the online digital world. Yeah. So again, I think it belongs to the youth.
Thank you, Danny. And Scott, please.
Sure, I'll just make it easy. Everything Danny just said. No, I'm just kidding. So I think that one of the things that we're missing, especially since COVID just happened and everybody's feeling isolated and we've gone online, is we have to remember that for 25 years we have been community building. Before Twitch, before the streaming, CPL always had a massive BYOC. We used to partner with DreamHack, and DreamHack does a massive event that was bringing people from all over the world to sit together. I remember the first time I went over to Jönköping, Sweden, and flew in back in, oh my goodness, 2003. I'm dating myself. And there's 10,000 people jumping on trains from all over Europe and all over the world to sit down and hack together. We weren't even just playing games. we were sharing movies. I didn't say that because that was illegal back then, but sharing, doing all this stuff, but it's always been about community. Then the next level came out with companies like ESL and organizations like NIC, where when they started doing events, they decided that they'd travel the events around the finals around and make the gamers learn the cultures that they were coming to. So that way, that's the deglobalization of things. When you have an event and you do it in Poland or you do it in Russia and you bring in these gamers and these people and you introduce them to the culture, you make the cultural experience part of it, that's how you build community. Not an esports company, but a great company that does that is Niantic with Pokemon Go. It's like they do these community events all over the world and they have them and he's a Gary, see my whole back. Is you want those things to happen because you want to invite the people from the world to come in and enjoy the culture and meet the friends and everything else they're meeting online. So I'm going to end it with what I'd love to see over the next generation. And I'm not even Generation Z, Generation Alpha, because the Generation A is already up and coming. These young kids are already on their phones doing things. Is the gaming companies like us, like ESL, like Skoga and the groups that Nicholas do, we need to work with travel agencies and the government to create a tier of programming so that we do massive community events once COVID is out there, to not only bring the hardcore gamers there, but the casual gamers. And the last thing I'll say is multi-generational. I'm 50 years old. My kids grew up playing it. I have people in my company that have grandkids now that are already playing games. When we started, we were the generation. It was just us. But now gamers have families and the families are playing the games. That is a great opportunity for governments, for towns, for industry to bring those people in under a tourism and expose them not only to the glory of gaming and everything that it does, but about community and culture. So that's got to be the next level or evolution of esports, which is opening up to the globalization and the family unit and making it more friendly to travel to the events. Even if I don't want to sit and watch it on stage, my rest of my family can go out there and enjoy Shanghai, Beijing, and the culture that it brings. And if we can do that, think of that. 100,000 gamers in a stadium, if each one of them brought their parents or a husband and wife, that's 300 to 500,000 people coming into a town to learn about your culture. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all the answers from the speakers. And I suppose that this both would be a pathway to the global cultural communications, right? Okay, I suppose this dialogue is close to ending because of limited time. And actually, thanks for the speech of all the speakers. All of your views would give us further understandings and reflections. And thanks for the presence of the speakers and all the audience. At last, thanks for the support from the Cultural Center of China International Publishing Group, Dewey Center, and the Ban Ki-moon Center. We are looking forward to next dialogue. Thank you. Thank you your time. Good night.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you.
Very good timing.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
See you. Good night.
Bye bye, Eric.
再见.
Bye, Eddie.
Bye,
Bye, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Later.
聊得上瘾啊！我说不错呀，你这个
什么主任？
相当不错，相当不错啊！
哪有？
越来越好，对，后面比前面更自然了。对对对
对，刚开始有点紧张
啊，人都会紧张的。后来进入状态了。
我觉得他们说的跟我们写的完全不一样，所以说必须要临时跟他们讲。像我觉得那个美国